Hi, folks, and welcome to A More Civilized Age. I'm Matt, joined once again with my co host, Ryan Kennel, who you may or may not have heard of, and Meg, which everyone has heard of.
That's
She's
true.
super
That's
famous.
us. We're back. We're back
Yeah,
and we're ready to go.
we're
It's
here.
been,
Back.
I can't believe it's been a month already.
It's been a month already. It's been a month. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff going on. Legends Con is announcing more and more guests coming in there. Troy Denning just got announced recently, and a few others. They have a lot more guests coming out. It looks exciting. We're going to talk about that. Maybe have someone on at the midway point, probably in a couple more months. Bring someone from Legends Con back on to talk. But one of the things I did on the expandeduniverse.com with Alex, who is a contributor, was talk about the most emotional moments in the EU to him, to me, and everyone's is different because in the comments, I got a few comments on it, and everyone started talking about different emotions they got from reading this. You know, you were the most, I mean, I think Meg and I were the most confused reading Planet of Twilight. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I guarantee you that was the look on your face as you're describing it was my look the whole time reading it for the first time and the second time. Um, so today I want to talk about that and ask you all the same question about this: is what were moments that you were like, you know, did you did you ever cry? Let me get to that one first.
I've cried way more times than is like acceptable during Star Wars books. 100%.
I mean,
100%.
mine was Ton Fannin. He hit me the hardest.
Mm,
And
hmm.
that's weird to say because I mean, there's a lot of big names that died. I'm like, oh no. But when it was Tom Fannin, I was like, oh, don't do, oh. And then the letter, I totally forgot rereading it about the letter that comes right after that. You know, to Face thanking him for being his friend and whatnot. And I was like, stop, stop. The knife is just turning in the heart now at this point.
And then if that wasn't enough, Face has to literally incinerate him afterwards so they don't leave any
Yes.
trace of his body or any of the
Oh
serial
yeah,
numbers or
yeah.
anything in his
But
parts.
the
Yeah.
way the way the chapter ends is Faces, you know, they're in the river. Face's whole body goes cold, and for the first time since he was a boy, Face cried,
Cried. Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, oh, no, no. I still knew it was coming in my reread, and I still got watery. It's such a great moment. But I mean, and I've been emotional in a lot of them, and of course I'm sad about a lot of things, but Tom Fannis for me was that was a hard blow, man. A hard, and I couldn't believe what was going. I was like the Grinch. Was like, why is there water coming out of my eyes? What is happening here? Because I didn't expect that from an X-wing book, you know.
No.
Yeah.
But
Especially
go
what
ahead.
like Wraith, a lot of people die in Wraith Squadron too. Like,
Yeah,
um, but I think one of the more classic ones for EU fans is probably Anakin Solo, and and that one I love Star by Star in general, but that one is so rough because you see it coming for so long, right? It's not like a shock.
Yeah.
It's like it's getting worse and worse and worse, and he's basically like saying goodbye to his brother and sister. And one of like the shocking things is before he goes and does that, he like turns to Jason and puts Jason in charge, even with all their bickering, all their back and forth, all their disagreements. He puts Jason in charge in that moment. And that it's such a crazy thing because that Jason ends up looking up to his younger brother for a really long time,
yeah.
which is just kind of a
Yeah.
unique dynamic. But as he kind of goes out there and is like glowing, as his cells are kind of igniting, as he's kind of giving out, like open himself completely up to the force, that's a rough read.
That is. It is.
Yeah.
It is one. Meg, what about yourself?
Mine was interesting enough when I reread Outbound Flight when I got to the part where like Lorana realized that, you know, the survivors had made their way out of the court and they were going to have to rotate. And so that moment of like realizing like I'm going to die, and she sort of like, shook hands with Thras, and I just started crying because like
Wow.
it got me good. It was like when I started out I was like, "Oh, come on, Lorana." And then by the time you get to the end you're like, "Lorana, no." She does like the most noble thing imaginable and no one ever knows.
Man, oh man, that is a wild one. I have not heard that one before. That's a good one. I thought you were going to say you were sad for Winter having to have a sham marriage to Tycho when she secretly was in love with Akbar, who she wanted to be with. You know,
Yeah, I
that
mean, when you
forbidden
find out
love.
Unifying Force that Akbar passed away, I'm like, is Winter okay?
God.
Tycho says she's been under the weather a lot, Wedge.
I think that for me, like the further on I get in the timeline, the more like emotionally tied up I am in stuff. You
Mm,
know, with I think all of Legacy of the Force is like gut wrenching at times because
Yes.
one, you're seeing this change that's happening within Jason as the family's trying to keep itself together. You see Luke become a shell of himself after Mara gets killed, which is like really tough to see. And like you see Ben kind of step up in that absence of kind of Luke being and grieving. And then obviously when you open up Invincible and the first words you see are a terrible joke from Jason from like new
mm,
or
That's
from
what I was
Young
going to
Jedi
say.
Order. And it's
yeah.
like, this is going to be an awful experience reading this book, reminding us of all the times of when Jason was so young and pure.
When I read that opening quote, that opening joke from Young Jay Knights and Invincible, I closed the book. I went, oh no, oh no, 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 no,
Yep.
no. And so
Yep.
the whole time, I mean, like that's the best way to start it because everyone from that, because the whole time I was thinking, are they really going to kill Jason? No, but then I mean, it was like he had to die, but no, they can't. This is a redeeming story because this is Star Wars. They get redeemed. And when I read that opening quote in the first chapter, I was like, oh, they're going to do it. Oh, they're going to do it. I can't read. The whole time you're steeling yourself. You're almost like you're holding your breath the whole time, like, oh, here, oh, no, no, no. And it was done perfectly. And you're right about Legacy of the Force as a whole. Mara dies. What do we get? We get a hand, a whisper, something through his hair. And
Yeah.
that's the only that is, it's not it is a gut wrenching feeling. He free falls it, but the thing is, it's not like the Death Star. It is a loving goodbye from Mara as she exits the material world, and I thought that was perfectly done. I thought it was perfect, and then later on, Fate of the Jedi, when they bring them back, and I'm not for people coming back from the dead or whatever, but even that was perfect. Every
Jason too.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason was great. Anakin was great.
Yeah.
Mara was great. They said all the things that needed to be said, and I don't think because usually bringing a character back cheapens the death
Mhm.
of. I mean, how many times in comic
Jason
books
wasn't like, oh, I'm really sorry for everything. He was
Yeah,
like,
no.
no, I don't regret anything I did.
Yeah, he said,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna apologize. That's the first
Yeah,
thing he
he's a
says.
little
Like,
turd even in
yeah.
the afterlife.
Well, but you know what? I love that because he thought, oh, this is where he gets it. He says, I'm sorry. You were right. I was wrong. No, they kept it. You know what? Bravo to them. Bravo to them. But those moments there were super powerful. But I agree with you. Invincible, the whole time I was, Pelion. When he
Helion's
Ooh,
death.
yeah.
when he doesn't have to hear he's been hearing the tapping of the bird at the window, meaning he knows his death and he's afraid. But right now in this moment that he knows he's going to die, it's not going to be in a bed. It's not going to be sickly. It's going to be on his feet and every. I mean, that whole image that's going through his mind and how he's standing defiantly, even though he knows the moment Tahiri enters, that's it for him. There's no way out. There's no last minute gun draw or anything. He knows he's dead, but now he's at peace. I love that scene.
Also,
This one, not really sad, but sort of this where you're like, oh, was Lorne Pavin being killed at the end of Darth Maul's Shadowhunter because you're like, he got out. And then you see who he goes to tell the information, and you're like, no. And so, like, from that moment on, which there's just like one chapter more after that, I was like, oh no.
As
Oh no.
as twists go, that may be one of the greatest twists
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ending of a novel. I thought the same thing. He's like, I'm so glad I found you Senator Palpatine. I was like,
And you're like, no.
Because you're trying to figure out how it's gonna work, because obviously nobody can know that Maul is like alive or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I got angry when he escaped. I was like, oh, come on. Because I'm thinking contradiction.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he rants and raves about Sith, but no one believes him because he's crazy. But no, that's probably, you talk about twist ending. Is there another one like that? Is there another? I'll be honest, there's been some twist. I never expected Boris Fila to have a thermal detonator.
No.
That was great. That was great.
That was, let me speak to your highest. He said, I am the highest representative. He's like, okay, then you'll do. Bank. And I was like, wait, what? Because that was just from out of left field. And I still, as a movie, I can see, you know, Boris Fila holding it. And then we're getting a shot of the tower as we're going around, like a 360 of the tower. And the whole tower just explodes. That's how I can see that whole scene playing down.
Gosh, I was gonna. Oh, when you're talking about twist endings, to be honest, the end of Dark Force Rising, is kind of a twist. That's when they realize it's all the clones.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
like,
true
and I
too.
believe that's like the last couple sentences or paragraphs is they realize that in Dark Force.
Yeah,
Rising.
they like see the bodies, and it's like they all have the same face, and it's like he's got clones.
Yeah. So that's kind of a twist.
That was pretty good. I'd forgotten about that one. That was cool. That was pretty good.
There's so many moments that like stand out in my mind. In Legacy of the Force, when Jason fires the Anakin Solo's long range turbo lasers at the Millennium Falcon and hits it.
Ooh.
And wait, you've read this one, right, Meg?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't want to spoil it. Okay, I forgot.
I just thought about that.
Yeah, I know.
Spoiling anything for Meg.
And the Falcon's in like really bad shape. So not only is Jason like just fired upon, you know, a craft that has his mom, his dad, I think Jaina and Zek and Ben at the time are also on there. So not only is he's fired on that craft with all his family, but the Falcon's like falling to pieces. And you see Han like freaking out, trying to get the thing patched up, and everybody basically trying to tell him, I don't know if you can fix it. And for some reason, that's like such a big moment when you think of the idea of the Falcon and everything it's been through, about that, you know, it's not even so much all the characters in there dying, it's the idea that the Millennium Falcon might go with them. It's just kind of unfathomable.
Yeah.
I think about twist endings too on that point, going back to that. And there's one, and I don't think you've read this, so I'm not going to ruin it for you, Meg, but have you read the Knights of the Old Republic comic book series?
I have not.
Okay, Ryan, there's that, I won't ruin this, but there's a big twist toward the end when someone is revealed.
I'm trying to think of what, it's been a while since I read.
Behind the Mask.
I don't know if I remember specifically that one.
But the thing is,
reread it.
The thing is, you find out he does like little flashback panels from the past 60, 70 issues or whatnot, you know. And the thing is,
all the little hints that were there,
those were real panels from previous comic books. And if you were paying attention, you could put the pieces together. But it was one of those Kaiser Soze moments where the second time when I was reading through it, I was like, shut up. It's right there the whole time. And I did not see the clues. And when they do the big, you know, Scooby-Doo reveal, I was like, oh. And when they showed all the little flashback things, I didn't realize those were actual panels from previous comic books. I thought they were just trying to do he said, you know what? Let's say that this is so-and-so. No, the whole time he's been laying down clues, subtle, not every issue, just subtly laying down clues for the Uber fan to figure it out. And who knows, maybe there were people that were way smarter than me that figured it out. I mean, the second time reading it through, you're like, yeah, duh. I knew that guy was Kaiser Soze from the very beginning, but then you don't realize it. But it's a really, I think that recently got a reprint. Marvel recently reprinted that entire thing. And it is one of the best comic book series out there, in my opinion. But Knights of the Old Republic, It went 50 issues. Excuse me, not 100. It went 50.
What other ones? Well, what about moments that make you happy? Because we're going to talk about
moments that made you happy.
The entire book of Starfighters of Adjumar. There are, but particularly, I love Jansen's cape that has video screens on it, and at the end, the video screens are just showing like kicklining Jansen's.
It's Starfighters. Like that is such a weird book because the stakes are so like stupidly low in it. Like really stupidly low. Half the time they're fighting not with real weapons, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all the characters just interacting with each other. That's the whole book. It's
That's
like
the
the whole
whole
payoff
point.
from all their interactions throughout the X-Wing series.
Yeah, it's the whole payoff, like you said, and it's just all the characters just goofing around. I remember in maybe I don't know if it was Starfighters anymore. Maybe it was in Race Squadron. There's a whole chapter. It's just a joke. The whole chapter was a joke. Remember that? They turn the lights on and it's Wedge in the mud, or I can't remember, but
wasn't that
Solo Command when they
tricked Jansen
into taking his clothes off?
Yes.
Yeah, because he had been the one that was putting the Ewok in all the places. Yeah. So they like tricked him into thinking something was going on.
But the entire chapter had nothing to further along the story. It was just a big giant joke to get back at Jansen. And when I found that out the first time I read it, I laughed so hard. I was like, shut up. This chapter it was Aaron Alston just having fun.
There's a chapter like that in Race Squadron too, with Grinder and the bug that he brought in that he had like used to try to prank Faith. Yeah. Like that's a whole chapter that's literally just like, Grinder going insane.
And they put the like encyclopedia entry in, like the fake one about how it's a killer insect.
Yep. There's a lot of, happy moments for me. And I said this too because I was a real big Callista fan. But when she made it out alive and shown the Jedi, I was like, yeah.
And immediately left.
I love Callista Luke.
Yeah.
And immediately dumped his ass.
That was a big moment.
What
moment did you stand up and cheer? What were happy moments? So honestly, anything Aaron Alston wrote, he wrote a lot of laugh out loud moments.
Yeah,
he did write a lot of laugh out loud stuff. To me, obviously, the relationships that get developed between these characters that like kind of build over a while, and whenever that finally it's kind of realized, those are all the ones that you kind of feel like good, right? Whether that's Luke and Mara, like that, like when he sets the freaking code to wake him up from the trance, right? And stuff like that. Like that was a cool moment, them finally getting together, even though Callista fans probably didn't like it. But a lot of other fans did.
I even just like the moment at the end of The Last Command when he's like, hey, I want to give you my dad's lightsaber. And she's like, you want to give me your dad's lightsaber? And he's like, yeah. And then she's all like, hey, I'll come with you. And I'm like, oh, they're friends now.
Yeah, they don't want to kill each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like the happy endings. There's a comic book from Tales of the Jedi, Redemption, and it's nice. Not that Ulick Qel-Droma needs redemption. Like I kind of like the original ending, but they wanted to do it, and that he connects with in the comic book. He connects with Vima's daughter, Nomi Sunrider's daughter, and is it Vima?
I think it is Vima.
Okay, and he connects with her at the end, and that's nice. It's nice he's finding solace for a man who's been tortured his entire life.
Yeah.
I think for me, one great moment is for sure when Corran Horn tracks down Mirix finally after having a detour 6 weeks to teach Luke Skywalker how to become a better Jedi. And then after having basically every hot woman in the galaxy try to screw him, finally he makes his way back to Mirix and they're reunited happily ever after. That was a pretty good one for me.
Oh, I love, this is another Aaron Alston. I love the moment in the Enemy Lines duology where Wedge is reunited with his family. Like he didn't even know if they were okay. Like,
yeah, that's good. There's a lot of
Is it in I don't know if it's in Legacy or if it's in Fate of the Jet. It's got to be in Legacy. Probably when Jason like leaves them, they're on the space station and everybody and like Jason leaves them because it's like getting attacked. And I think Leia is getting like dragged out into space, like through an airlock. And she's basically just like accepting her death. And Luke has that stupid grappling hook that he had still carried with him from when we saw it on the Death Star.
New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
He still had, and he like threw it to her and like they pulled her back in. You remember that scene?
I think that was Exile, the end of Exile, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
Where they were gonna like talk to the Imperial Moff or Admiral or something was there. Yeah, and then Jason's like, all right, bye. And you're like, you jerk.
He basically like abandons him. And like Leia, I think it's Leia getting like dragged out and like ready to accept her death. And Luke with his stupid grappling hook still wearing it on his belt like a farm boy and saves him.
I like Vector Prime, where Han and Chewie are navigating through the asteroid field in record time, and the kids are impressed, but it flashes to the cockpit, and both Han and Chewie are going, ah! They're going through, and it's just so comedic, and I could just see that, and that just felt like Star Wars, right? Where you're looking at it from one end, thinking, "Oh wow, that's the best." You know, your dad's the best pilot in the galaxy, and the whole time he and Chewie are screaming at each other and going both ways and moving this and that. You could just see the comedic moments.
It's like,
and I would have go ahead.
You see the view from them watching it, and they like enter the field and they do like a super, almost looks like lazy, effortless loop, and they're almost like, oh, they're just showing off. And then it cuts to in there, and they're like, this way.
Yeah, they're both turning the opposite way.
Yeah.
And all in the Falcon, which is why it's moved that way.
That's when the shields go out. That's when they're because they have repulsor fields that basically prevent them from crashing. And they just started using them to kind of bounce off things to get better angles. And Han's like, oh, I got the hang of this. And then the repulsor tech goes out. And as soon as that happens, Luke takes off and is like sprinting for his X-Wing to go in there and help them. Yeah.
So good. So good. Anything with I-5 and MedStar duology.
Yes.
I really love. He is so funny. His sarcasm, getting drunk.
Yeah.
His whole thing there. And I mean, I always love that. That's one of the few Clone Wars novels I always loved. But that was the reason why every character is so funny, relatable, have their quirks. You have your favorite, you have your sarcastic robots.
Yep.
Here and there. Another one that makes me laugh is L. Neil Smith, Lando Calrissian trilogy. It's the third book. It's a running gag where Lando gets painted into a corner. And then the next chapter is Sabacc. That's how it starts off, because somehow Lando has convinced everyone, instead of killing him, to let's play some Sabacc. Because he talks his way out of danger, unlike Han.
He's the smooth one.
He's the smooth criminal. And that was one of the ongoing gags for the third novel. Originally I thought it was for the whole series, but then later on realized it was just the third novel that he did that like 3 times. And I just thought that was and it got funnier each time it went through. And that L. Neil Smith wrote these books in 2 weeks per Lucasfilm's request. His family told me that he locked himself in a room for 2 weeks and just he had no good memories of these books, but he really came out with some gold, some funny moments. He and Boofy Rob was the first sarcastic robot that he had, and there's been a lot of great robots in the past who've been just as sarcastic. Or no, 3PO singing the Han Solo song to Leia during Courtship of Princess Leia.
Yeah, that's true.
And Jingle gets stuck in her head.
We never find droids that are just like normal. Like every droid that gets introduced, there's something really quirky about it that makes it special.
I love Face's astromech that he taught it, programmed it. I don't know how it works. Into the vape cold one. And he shoots a beer out. I
mean, you kind of think a pilot would do that. They would come up with They took like realistic, these are related. That's why again, the
It's like what
expanded
you
universe.
train your dog to do, and in a way, the droids are kind of like pets,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly how it is.
Oh my gosh,
R2.
in Icard's Revenge, when Gate and Whistler are,
racing.
well, they like break out of when they all get
Oh,
captured by Icard and like those two on an adventure, because Whistler's the one that has all the like
all the super like surveillance corset
yeah, and
stuff.
Gate is just a menace.
Yeah.
What about switching gears here? What about things you outright just like people talk about I threw the book across the room. Usually that's when Anakin died or their
Chewie
favorite
died,
character.
I think, for a lot of
Mara.
people, probably. Yeah.
Mara died, and you got so mad. But were there other things that just made you mad? It could have been the writing. You could have been like, no, don't do that. That's stupid.
Yeah, most of my, to be honest, my Jedi Academy trilogy is pretty beat up from how many times I threw it across the room. Just because, well, that's stupid. That wouldn't happen. Luke's not really that dumb. Why would he give his lightsaber back? So those are pretty beat up. Okay, but
won't stop.
I don't know. I think I can't think of any times where I've been like
that this
mad that like I might be like mad that something happened in universe, but I'm not like mad at the book or at the writers or whatever.
Right.
I've never really felt that. I guess I'm just kind of in the moment.
No, wait, I've got one. The moment in Jedi Trial when Nisha is like to Anakin, I have a wife, and Anakin's like, no way, dude, I've got a wife.
Too.
And
yeah,
I remember physically closing the book and being like, you've got to be kidding me.
There's no way he would tell this Jedi that he just met.
Yeah.
He just met him. And they're on a mission together. It's not like they've never been on previous missions.
No.
They've never had a previous history. They're just assigned together on this ship. And in the very short time that he's with Anakin, maybe within the first week, he tells Anakin that. Anakin says, I got one too.
Yeah, that was almost a throw the book moment.
And you're like, what?
That was obviously like such a ham-fisted way to retcon, things that we had seen before the prequels and then after,
Yeah.
Because even Corran's timeline doesn't make sense for when his grandfather was alive and when his father was alive. Like, it doesn't really match up because I believe George had given guidance to everybody. Like, originally he had planned the Clone Wars to be like
Clone Wars was like
50.
farther back.
He told me it was like going to be 50 years before like the original movies. It ended up only being like 20 years before the movies. So
he changed his mind.
He changed his mind, which is fine, but it obviously created a couple problems. Like all the times they reference the Clone Wars in Heir to the Empire or X-Wing series. But Corran's parentage was one of those things. And obviously that was before they had delineated that Jedi can't get married. So the Jed creds were like, oh yeah, anytime they give them to their family. Like that's one of the things with the Jed creds. Which it's like, okay, well, if you read that 10 years after it's published, that doesn't make any sense. So that was their way to like kind of ham fist that in. It's supposed to be like, oh, he's secretly married.
So like awkward.
Yeah.
So awkward.
I know a lot of people didn't like Luke and Callista, but I think Luke's most hated relationship was Jim from Dark Empire 2.
From Dark Empire 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably. It was like, whoa, this is a younger girl, Luke, who doesn't know that much of the Force. She is,
or anything.
Yeah, she's never been outside of her own tribe, and I don't know, man. You're looking like a groomer, my man. I don't know. I don't think I'd. He has her riding behind him, arms around him. This is the one he loved. He found him a native woman or whatnot. I don't know. That may be the worst relationship. I don't think anyone was for that one. Even when it came out, I remember fans being outraged by it. I guess she died, but
maybe one of the I guess one of the times I was mad reading a book was is it during Black Fleet Crisis where Luke goes on that fake search for his mother?
Yes.
Yeah, like that one.
That is because I read that after the prequels had come out, right?
Mm.
So, or at least I don't know about all of them had come out. Probably Phantom Menace, maybe Attack of the Clones come out when I read that series. So I'm like, well, this is stupid. You know, like, I know this isn't true. Like, so that was like so.
You're like, scam.
Yeah, it was just like so painstaking to read through something that you knew was just like utter nonsense. So I guess I was a little mad about that.
What annoyed me in that was in the second book in the Black Fleet Crisis, when Luke goes to like a replica Jabba's palace and they like reenact the events of Jabba's palace. And I was like, what?
That's a weird book series. Matt loves it because it's got Lando front and center.
I love the Lando story, and I don't mind.
Story.
I don't mind either one of those stories, but Lando, which was meant to be the B story, is definitely the best. I would admit to that. But I do enjoy the series as a whole.
I like some of the military aspects of it because they got into some hardcore military stuff in there in terms of introduction of new ships, tactics, like very like specifying a lot of what was going on with the different fleets and stuff too, and how they were fighting them. Like that.
And General Abbott is an interesting character that we like never really ever saw again.
Yeah, we never saw like the Yevithan again either until they like go to find them and ask them for help against the Tong, and they're obliterated.
They're dead.
They're obliterated. But yeah, when it comes to that one though, I did like the Leia, and Meg and I did a video on this, Matt versus Meg, and where I kind of pointed out that I liked Leia's storyline. I thought it made a lot of sense. Like Meg was making the point, and I get the point, was that Leia's acting like an idiot. Like, why would she even trust this guy who's been proven not to be trustworthy? But in my mind, she's so mad at Han, you know, that she's like, I'm gonna force this to happen. I'm gonna will this to happen. You know, so basically kind of blinded herself into that corner, which led to the insurrection that later, you know, led to the whole battle being released. But I don't know. I overall really think I like Black Fleet Crisis. Because I knew I think even they told us in the forums that they're not going to mess up anything. And before people start complaining about, wait, is Luke's mother going to be in this? Because no one was liking that direction. And they said, just wait till you read the rest of it before you comment. And then that's when I knew, okay, they're not, it's all going to be a fake. It's all going to be a fake. Yeah. And I knew. So it didn't bother me as much, but I get it. One thing, oh no, I lost it. There's one thing that really bothered me. Oh, of course, there's a lot of things in Dave Filoni's Clone Wars that bother me. I don't like Ahsoka.
We don't really talk about that here. Yeah.
But I will say this: the reason why this series isn't, and Dave Filoni just was running on his own. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, but George Lucas was really involved." He was there to, you know, when Filoni needed him to ask for advice. But basically, Filoni did his own thing, and Filoni plays that Clone Wars show like it happened after Episode 3, because as many times as Grievous faces off against Obi-Wan, and I didn't even realize this until I'm doing a rewatch of the whole series right now. Grievous even does the blade trick, you know, spinning blades, exactly from Episode 3. So why is Obi-Wan kind of, thrown off by that counter when he's seen it? You know, if you go chronologically, it makes no sense. And I hate blatant ignorance. And this is not him, holding up the EU and part of a storyline. This is him contradicting the movies.
It's the same with any fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku, right? Yeah. Like, they have like 7 fights throughout the Clone Wars where, you know, obviously in Revenge of the Sith, my powers have doubled since we last met, Count. He didn't mean every other fight they had like last week, right? He was talking clearly about Geonosis.
Or Obi-Wan going, this time we do it together. Exactly. And Anakin should have stopped him. You mean like the past 3 times we fought him, Master? Right. Are you still not over that first time? Jeez, I've learned since then.
I hate that about Clone Wars.
But I mean, it's so blatantly.
Grievous is completely nerfed in TCW. Like, I don't know why anyone would be afraid of him. You're doing your rewatch. What was it? Season 1, episode 7, where Ahsoka faces off against Grievous in a hallway and lives to tell the tale.
And holds her own.
Yeah.
It's such a contrast, because if you're watching all the Clone Wars TV shows, okay, in chronological order, like let's say you watch that in between 2 and 3, it cheapens 3 to where Grievous is not a threat. You know he can be defeated by anyone, and when he does, he's going to run, because that's always what happens. He always runs. Okay, so there's no threat. Whereas if you were to put Tartakovsky's cartoon series in the middle of the two, now you're really scared, because here's a guy who took out 6 Jedi, and easily. I mean, just hacked them down with, they were all gathered together too, and one by one he took them out.
And also, you see him kidnap Palpatine at the end, which leads literally directly into the movie.
And it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And Tartakovsky's, he was able to keep the storyline true, and the feelings there true, and there was more camaraderie for Obi-Wan and Anakin. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see this war bring them closer together as friends, making jokes, doing this. I can't remember. There's one where they're in the rain in that bunker, and they're eating worms because they don't have any nutrition. But then Anakin decides to do the impossible, and Obi-Wan's like, "Well, you know what? He is the chosen one." And it's a little bit humorous, because when Anakin does this unbelievable feat, and the clones are like, "He did it, sir." He went, "Of course he did. He's Anakin." He's like, "Anakin, what took you so long?" "Ha ha, master. Can we be, Yeah, I like that, because they're kidding each other. They're becoming close friends, comrades. They're more like brothers. Like Obi-Wan says, "You were you were a brother to me." We see that. But Clone Wars, there's this third wheel called Ahsoka, and it's hard to jail and have those moments when there's her just sitting in the middle going, "What's up, Sky Guy?"
Yeah, I can't stand Clone Wars. Yeah, if you want to talk about actual technically, expanding universe content or whatever, the thing that makes me more angry than anything else would definitely be all of Clone Wars.
Yeah, no, that's just it's just a mess. The timeline wise, even it's a mess. All right, next topic. I am going to ask you this one. I mentioned Legends Con at the beginning. They've introduced so far a few good authors, Kevin J. Anderson and Troy Denning, two of my favorites. There's going to be more. I know Joe Bongiorno got announced. Daniel Wallace, who does a lot of the
guides and stuff.
And really, he was the one that wrote the Guide to Droids, that put that connection in, that said Vufi Ra's, type of android or whatever, they were the ones who turned against the Vong, and that's why the Vong hate technology. And he kind of he likes to sew in continuity and make it seem seamless. And so he'll be a good one too. They're getting John Whitman from Galaxy of Fear, a series that had so many great connections. And even though it was meant to be just a ripoff of
Goosebumps.
But Galaxy of Fear makes a lot of strong connections to the EU. And I can't wait, first off, to get all my books autographed by him, but secondly, to just pick his brain about what other ideas he had, because I think he did the impossible. Because, it was, every chapter had to end on a cliffhanger, where it's resolved like in the very first sentence. Suddenly out of the shadows, a hand, it lays on Zach's shoulder, and he screams.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter, it's his sister Tash. Okay. But he had to do that. He had to keep in line. But yet still, he told stories that connect from Tales from Mos Eisley. He finished Dr. Evans's story from Tales of Mos Eisley. He did all these things and connected it. And fans of any genre would love it. One of the few connections to the Jedi Prince series, because that was one of the books that was out there, but no one had made connections to it. He did. And in the Jedi Prince series, Lando owns Hologram Fun World. Well, in this one, the kids go to Hologram Fun World, and they meet Lando, who's considering buying the theme park. So I there's a lot of interesting guests they have so far. I know there's more they have planned. I do know this. They love to send an invitation to Roger McBride Allen or Michael P.Q. McDowell, but they don't have their contact information. So anyone who does, please feel free to reach out to them with those emails. because the classics they're still alive, but Roger McBride Allen has some little web page that looks like it's from 1995, and then the Michael P. Q. McDowell hasn't posted on Facebook in 2 years. So even he's kind of grays out on the contact me. So, but I want to know this: if you could pick some authors, living, of course, you had your EU wish list, who would you like to see?
Stackpole, Denning.
Stackpole's awesome. I've met him several times. He's great. Oh, I'd love to see James Luceno. That's a good one.
I want to see Christine Catherine Rouge, who only wrote The New Rebellion. But you know what? The New Rebellion's not half bad, so.
I want to see her too, but for other reasons. Boy, when I got that book, I looked at that back cover of her picture for several minutes before I cracked the. I was like, "Who is this?"
Several minutes, huh?
Several minutes. I was like, "Oh my!" It's a girl who writes Star Wars, and she's pretty to look at. I mean, shoot, have you seen her today? She looks the same, just with white hair. Hello, Grandma. Looking good. Looking good. She better not be at Legends Con. I'm going to have to apologize to my wife.
I want Kathy Tyers because I have a signed book by her, not a Star Wars book. But then I want to be like, hey, Kathy, in 2020, you announced that you were writing a sequel to Crystal Witness. Where is it?
Wow. I love, Kathy Tyers is someone else I love too, because she takes different paths. Like Truce of Bakura was so unique because it should have been just another, the last remnants of the Empire are going up against the rebellion. That's what obviously that's what you write about, right? No, she wanted to write a different story, and bravo. I mean, dinosaurs with paddle guns that shoot lasers. That's bonkers nuts. But you know what? When you look at those Japanese covers that show the Velociraptor with a space gun, I'd buy that. I'd buy that.
And I like too that Truce of Bakura is like, it's not, Battle Vendor's done, we got to keep fighting against the Empire. It's like they need help. We're working with them. I mean, the governor's a bit too cackling maniacal villain, but I really like Thanos' character.
Mustache twirling, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know about alien parasites, and you're like, gross.
A little bit, yeah. I give you that, but overall, she, even in her short stories, she did the one about the music band that are rebel spies, and they play certain notes, and that's the code. And she said she got that from World War II when there were bands who were spies, traveling bands, and when another fellow spy was going to come see them in concert, they played those notes, and that's how he got the secret message out. I mean, really some 007 stuff, but she incorporated, and I never even heard about that happening. And so when I'm reading about it in whatever Adventure Journal, or I think it was a Gamer magazine, I was like,
I think it was Rebel Bass and Star Wars Gamer. Yeah,
Star Wars Gamer. I was like, that is so unique. What a great idea. And I started thinking about, man, they should write a book about them. I mean, that's the thing. She just was a very unique writer who I think goes really underappreciated. Kathy Tyers does. Because even Ballot's Point, which everyone says is the weakest of the New Joe Order, of the big books,
the hardcovers, maybe.
The big
hardcovers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Jason finally manning up and blowing Tavaslung La out the window, breaking his ankle. That was a great scene.
When you have 19 books or whatever, like not all of them can be bangers. Like you need some character development and establishment and stuff like that. Like Balance Point, the entire thing, isn't that right after Jaina had been in the accident, was blinded and everything.
Yeah,
so
and she's so mad at her mom.
Yeah, like she's pissed off. Everybody's mad at each other. Jason is like sworn off the Force because he saw the galaxy at this balance point, and if he made an action, he could turn everything wrong, like all that stuff. So it's just kind of it's not as action packed, I guess, with some of our heroes as some of the previous books were, as the entire galaxy is like in flames now. but it's still important, and I think it's well done.
Yeah. Kathy Tyrus, Christine Catherine Rush, excellent choices. I'd want both of them there. Any others? I would like Greg Keyes. I think he's also unappreciated because his New Jedi Order series he did with Anakin and Tahiri,
Yeah.
excellent. It made you believe about the two. It made Anakin endearing, and I think without those books, no one's as upset during Star by Star. I think they were upset because
Yeah.
they got the buy-in when he wrote about Anakin, that duology, and just
Yeah.
got everyone hooked on that relationship, and that made Anakin's death that much more.
Yeah, if you don't
You
have
know,
the Tahiri factor, I don't know if it does hit home quite as hard.
yeah. But
Like,
that's kind of how they kind of, because Tahiri's like, you haven't been home in forever, she's teasing him. And through those, just two books, they start forming that relationship and rekindling that love. And you start buying into both of them so that when Star by Star comes, Troy Denning crushes your soul.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the next chapter after Anakin dies, I think there's one chapter in between, but the next chapter is like Jaina and a couple people trying to get Anakin's body back. Like
Oh, yeah.
that's like the next part of it, which is crazy.
Well, yeah. But at least he didn't use the Force to have Anakin's body look like it rose from the dead and start walking after the Vong.
I don't know if she was thinking
That's
that
wild.
clearly. She was pretty mad.
She was
Yes,
very
she
mad.
was. Yes, she was. There's some open. Oh, you talk about tense moments back on emotional ones when Anakin died and how Leia felt in the Force.
Oh my
That
gosh,
whole
yeah.
scene is
And
just.
like Han is like, what is going on?
Luke,
And when he,
Luke's
when
reaction, I really like, because
Luke's reaction was good.
Luke's reaction to me was like shocking because he feels it happen. He's like with other people, and there's like a projector that's on talking about some plan or something, and he is like getting furious and mad and angry. And I think Ben starts crying.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
Mara is like, Luke, you have to stop. And he smashes the projector to like release his anger. And then Leia's just shrieking.
Just distraught. And but tears in her eyes, she can barely get out the words Anakin. And Han doesn't realize what that means. And then suddenly he realizes.
Yeah.
And they hear the ringing of the phone. He gets his blaster, shoots it. That felt good. And he starts shooting up the entire part. And it's like, that's dark. It's a dark moment. Probably the darkest the EU ever. I mean, obviously the darkest the EU ever got Star by Star. Does anyone want to?
I think emotionally, and the deaths of so many young Jedi and stuff, and
yeah,
I think so. I think you'd have to say that. And this is like on the heels of Han, losing his way after Chewie's death, blaming Anakin for it, not really have mended that relationship quite yet. Like they're okay, but Anakin still clearly feels the weight of Chewbacca's death on his shoulders. And for him to die that way without them being able to really resolve their relationship, like that's just gut-wrenching.
The other part I love about this, and this is why, again, the expanded universe better than the new canon here, but you go further into Legacy of the Force, where Han tells Leia, well, yeah, that's not our son anymore. And Leia just realizes Han's right. And then she starts tearing up and crying, and Han realizes, oh, you didn't know that. You thought there was still good in it. Like Han's like, oh no. But then what does he tell Leia? Does he tell Leia, hey, honey, I can't take this whole family thing. It's falling apart. I need to go and be reboot myself again like I did in episode 7 and be a bum and leave you. No, he says, Leia, I'm here for you. Whatever you were there for me when I was in a dark place with Anakin. I will not leave you. Remember that? That's such a nice, comforting moment there. A supportive Han, a Han who's not going to give up even when it gets bad. One we've seen the loner Han. He stopped being loner Han at the end of Return of the Jedi. Now he's family man. That's another thing the books did really well. When someone was mocking him for being, not being a smuggler anymore, and Mr. Family Man, and he gets mad. Like, what's wrong with that? You know, that the smuggling life isn't for him anymore. You know, it's not for him anymore. He likes the life he has now. He's a different man, and it's not that he's weaker either. He's stronger for it. I just like the self exploration. Han Solo's story arc just gets better and better with time. You know, the writers really knew how to write him. And then here comes J.J. Abrams going, you know what? Let's just hit the reset button on him again because I don't know how to make him interesting. Let's say he just left Leia when things went south because that's what he would do. That's the Han we all know and love by the end of Return of the Jedi.
Sold the medal that he got at the end of A New Hope for booze or something.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that happened.
Is that what they said?
I'm in a comic book or something. I'm pretty sure they did that. Something like that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It makes more sense than the other one where he gives it back. But yeah, so I mean that's another thing. But as horror goes, that's a pretty. I was upset when who was it? The Crix Madine died in Dark Saber. I did not see that coming. You talk about a shocker. That he's
it's so crazy that's like that one really blew me away when General Crix Madine.
It was
who had
he thought he was gonna
how many seconds of screen time.
He was the first movie character to die in the EU. Kevin Janderson got permission earlier, had never been done, and it upset a lot of fans. But I thought, well, he's a movie. Back then, movie characters were untouchable, even the smallest movie character. But that he dies, but as he's dying, he sees the fleet. As his eyesight is going fading to black, he sees the fleet coming to his rescue, and I'm like, so is he? Wait, did he? Wait, what? Oh no, that was another moment for me that I just remember going, mouth open moment.
He was supposed to pop up in like 50 ABY. He'd actually been cryogenically frozen, and he was gonna come back and do something. They could have left it open.
I guess. If anyone wants to see a good reaction video, it's Meg Short on the Bothan and Dala relationship.
Admiral Buatu and Dala, that was in Fate of the Jedi, where I'm like turning the pages, I'm like, is this hinting what I think it's hinting? And then he's like leaving her apartment at like 3 a.m. I'm like, oh, it is.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple like well, Meg hasn't read the Fate of the Jedi series yet.
I have read the Fate of the Jedi. I read it last year.
Now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why am I thinking you didn't read it then?
She's done with it now.
All right. Well, the Gay Mandalorians, which is like that is when you first read it, you don't even like notice anything. And I think it shouldn't feel forced, shouldn't feel weird, which I think they do a good job of that. But like the first time I read it, I had to like double read it a couple times to make sure I had like the characters right. But yeah, you say no, Matt?
I still don't feel they were portrayed. I know that she said that that's the way she always envisioned them.
They're 1,000% gay in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what's his face?
Goran Bevan and
yeah, Bevan and his partner.
I forget the wife's name. Husband, wife. But yeah.
Okay. But yeah, but remember whoever was that wrote that new Disney book, they're the ones that had the first gay character in the EU.
Yeah, we'd never seen any gay or bisexual characters. Knights of the Old Republic never happened. Yeah.
Yeah, the most blatant or Last of the Jedi with Ferris Olin.
Ferris.
Huh?
I was like Ferris and his dude. His dude.
Yeah. His man that he cried over when he died.
Yeah.
The thing is though, the most blatant, just garbage was I think it was Chuck Dixon's Aftermath. For the first time ever, a story is told after Return of the Jedi. Not even close. Not even close. I think that's how it was written on the book or on the advertisement. It's like, for the first time ever? What are you talking about? Who are you trying to fool there? But at least we have AI generated reprints of the Legends books now.
Well, I'm just glad we get the audiobooks.
The audiobooks are worth it.
Yeah.
Have you listened to the Rogue Squadron ones yet?
I haven't.
No.
I have them on my like library
Got to. Great.
Libby wish list, but
they're good.
Oh yeah.
Well, because
really
they're
good.
Mark Thompson, and he's a good reader.
Well, the first time I listened to those, I think I listened to like the first one, and I didn't know they were abridged.
You're like, oh, only 3 hours. This will be awesome.
I kept going, they're skipping stuff. And he goes, yeah, it's abridged. They don't have enough. This is back when they had books on tape. He said,
oh yeah, and they were just like two tapes.
Yeah, that'd be like 100 tapes or whatever. But I used to listen to tapes on, that kind of audio back in the day, and Lord of the Rings was unabridged, but only if you were like a certified classic would you probably get the unabridged treatment back then. But now all these other recordings are coming out unabridged, and to be honest, audiobooks are much better now than what not that they were terrible beforehand, but you got sound effects, you got music sometimes.
There's a whole production. It's not just an audio. It's an audio drama. It sets the tone. You get like, if it's set in a forest, you get like crickets and birds and frog noises and stuff. Like it feels real. But yeah, they've got all 4 Rogue Squadron. Well, the first 4 Rogue Squadron books. They've got Wraith Squadron. I don't know if they've got, was it Iron Fist? Is it the second?
Yeah, Iron Fist, and then
they have Iron Fist, and I think they have Bacto. Don't they have them all now?
No.
They have the first 4.
You get the first 4 Rogue Squadrons.
Yeah.
Then, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Michael Stackpole's Rogue Squadron. They have all.
And they've got I don't remember how many Wraith Squadrons they have released. I think another one's coming out in a couple months. But yeah, they're doing the All-Star ones too.
Those are good. Now, I am glad for the unabridged versions. Because and then the production value is way higher too. But the production value is good back then. I remember they had the music and the TIE fighter and the X-Wing sounds, and I was enjoying that. I was just getting pissed off that they were skipping every other, line. It's kind of like watching those horrible Lord of the Rings movies where they're skipping through all my favorite characters and scenes, and I am not happy about Tom Bombadil being in Rings of Power. How dare they take a beloved character and put him in such an atrocity?
What do you mean? It's exactly the way he's described in the books. He's got a hat. What else do you want?
He's got boots.
Yeah.
Is he going to be speaking in rhymes? Does he have his yellow boot? Is he a yellow boot jolly fellow?
Yellow boots and
I doubt he'll be a jolly fellow.
Yeah, like a bright blue jacket though. Like they're even descriptive about the type of color it is, but he just looks like, I don't know, generic homeless person number 3 in Rings of Power.
I'm so happy because I just actually got another Tolkien book, Nature of Middle Earth, recently. And I got it because I watched the interview by the editor who said, and the guy's like, he's a big Lord of the Rings fan. He said, so what'd you think of the new movies? And he went, not a good word.
Wait, the new movies or the new series?
The new series.
Well, at the time of the book's release, Rings of Power had not come out yet. And they did ask him, was he excited for Rings of Power? He said, not exactly. He said, and it was perfect. He said, when they say based off of the world, that pretty much means they're not going to follow a single one of J.R.R. Tolkien's original writings or intentions or visions. He said, but we'll see. He said, I'd love to be proven wrong. It's the nice answer of like, no, not at all. When I heard that, based off the world of, okay, then never mind then. They're going to be written by idiots.
And now they're going to have a Gollum movie directed by Andy Serkis.
With Peter Jackson involved. Well, it's not just one. It's supposed to be a trilogy.
Is it? Is it really 3?
I believe so. So we took The Hobbit and split that into 3. That was bad enough.
God.
Now we're taking a story that's not actually written down anywhere, and we're going to make that into... that's what I heard anyway, that they had planned for potentially do a trilogy, but...
They are making some sort of animated...
War of the Rohirrim is supposed to be really cool.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
This winter. Yeah. That's going to be cool.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, anyway, let us know your most emotional moments in the expanded universe. And we will see you next month on a more civilized age.